Does the signing of Hamilton complicate Leclerc's role at Ferrari?
Oh, absolutely. We've already seen that in the past 2, 3 years, whenever Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc have had to go head to head, Ferrari has always put Charles Leclerc first. But now bringing in Lewis Hamilton into the mix, I think it's definitely going to make things harder for him. You're going to have two teammates that are both having the same goal. They both want to win a championship. Charles Leclerc has had a tough bit of time with Ferrari as well. And Lewis Hamilton's main purpose, most likely, of coming to Ferrari is to get that world championship. So who's Ferrari going to prioritize? When they're going head to head in races, which driver are they going to support? Um, so I think that this is definitely going to make things more difficult for Charles Leclerc. Having such a big driver as your partner, and then Ferrari may more likely support Lewis Hamilton in certain decisions and may try to prioritize him. So I think that this definitely does take away Charles Leclerc being able to secure a championship if that was something that they were planning on doing. But I think that's definitely going to make things harder for him.
Yeah, and it's the whole again. It's Fred Vasseur because he's sort of the glue now, isn't he? He's brought in two drivers that he's worked with in the past. He never worked with Carlos Sainz before he came to Ferrari, but he did work with Charles Leclerc, and I mentioned it on the grid shows last year. That's going to be a very key aspect to Ferrari, and the sort of half favoritism is that Leclerc and Vasseur have a working relationship already, and Hamilton predates Leclerc, so it's. Who do you put number one? The guy's been at the team for several seasons since 2019, or the guy who's been here 5 minutes but is a 7-time world champion. It's very difficult to toe the line. I would personally take the approach of, look, you're both number one drivers, you're both equal, and then whoever's in the championship lead by around after the mid-season break, then we'll focus on one or the other. That has to be how it goes. Lewis has to go here knowing that he will not be top gun for a while. He's going to have to re-earn that. He's going there as a champion, but Leclerc's going there as more experienced at the team. Hamilton's moving into Leclerc's backyard. He did that with Rosberg, and look how that took. It took 2013 to get it right. Hamilton had to play second fiddle because Rosberg that year won 3 races. Hamilton only won the 1. So it's going to be a very slow burn across the board, but this is all development for 26 anyway. It's directly in for what Ferrari have for 2026. And I'm very excited to see what they've got to take Lewis Hamilton in there as well. And how it's going to work in terms of the complication between the two. I don't know. We'll get on to that later on. Oh, are we in that question now? Yeah, we are. Sorry. Daytona's still messing with my brain. How it all goes with the complication. Leclerc has said in the past, when all this came up in Monaco, Tom Clarkson asked him in the press conference, who would your ideal teammate be? And he turned around and said, hello, Lewis. And like that. And they said, he then said seriously, anybody would be lucky to have Lewis Hamilton in the paddock as their teammate. You can learn a lot from them as well. So Leclerc's going to get a mentor. And that's what I said earlier on. I think he needs that. And I think Hamilton respects Leclerc and Leclerc respects Hamilton. There's a lot of respect. There's a lot of sort of mutuality of understandings of both what they've been through. And I think it's only good for Leclerc that Hamilton's going to be alongside as a teammate for at least 2 seasons, because it's going to push him to be faster. And it's exactly what he needs, because Leclerc needs to learn how to be a team leader. In my opinion, he hasn't done that in the last 2 seasons. Ferrari have had 2 equal drivers for a while now, as last year has proven with Sainz beating in win rate and in qualifying positions as well up until the last 3 races, because I think Leclerc qualified in the top. He qualified in the front row of the grid of 5 of the last 6 races, did Charles Leclerc, which is impressive to show Ferrari's second half of the season, well, last 5 races pace. Compare that with McLaren as well. So it's getting good, and Leclerc will get the experience of Hamilton, and it's going to be a little bit of maneuverability, but he's still number 1 for now. He's got that contract until the end of 28, so he's number 1. Hamilton will come in, they'll be equal, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, to Josh's point, I don't know if it matters too much in terms of complicating Leclerc's role at Ferrari, at least not at the beginning. I do think it might complicate Ferrari's strategy department, which is already complicated enough, and I think that could complicate the results for both Leclerc and Hamilton. So that'll be an interesting dynamic that they still have some time to get figured out, but they've been trying to figure out their strategy department for many, many years now, if we're being honest. So I don't know that I have too much hope that they can do that in the next couple of years with any sort of reliability and consistency. So it's going to be very interesting. I think somebody said in the chat room earlier, just let's skip 2024 and get right on to 2025. I feel the exact same way. I've got to tell you, I know I said on this show yesterday with the Andretti Global rejection news that I'm not very enthusiastic about 24, but this sport, man, just brings me right back in. Of course, within 24 hours, you've already got me psyched up for 2025 based on the news that we got today. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
Just one more thing. Yeah, let's not skip this year because we've got 14 of the 20 drivers out of contract. That's what this year is going to be about. But for the first time ever, we've got 2023 and 2024 starting off with exactly the same drivers and exactly the same team. Next year, God knows what's going to happen. It is 14 of the 20 car drivers completely out of contract.
Yeah, silly season for the 2025 Formula One season is going to be really, really crazy. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc are going to get along at Ferrari. Like you guys were saying, I think Charles Leclerc can certainly benefit from having someone like Lewis Hamilton coming in as a mentor, pushing him to be faster, as you were saying, Josh. And I think that it can only benefit him in that case. But as we see time and time again, when you have two really good drivers like Hamilton and Leclerc come together, there could be a little bit of drama. And Ben, to your point, Ferrari has historically had a lot of issues with their strategy, which is already complicated enough. And having two number one drivers like Hamilton and Leclerc on the team, the strategy department could get even more complicated, which could end up costing Ferrari a lot more than we've seen in recent years. So for the sake of Ferrari and Hamilton, I hope they get this right, and we see Ferrari back at the front of the grid competing for F1 wins and championships.
I touched on earlier on, Frederick Vasseur has got to make sure that at the start of their relationship, they are equal, but respect Charles Leclerc that he's been here the longest, while also respecting that Lewis is a 7-time champion. So that has to be done. But as the season goes on, you need to let them work together, let them grow together, let them have faith in each other, and then go from there as to who you prioritize in the championship run, because they're going to be very, very quick together. I have a feeling. But in terms of their personal relationship, as I said, this is great because Lewis can now teach Charles everything he knows. It's kind of like what he tried to do with George, but to me, George always strikes me as a driver who's got a bit of an ego. And Lewis did try and teach him, and it didn't work. George has always had a bit of a head on him anyway from his early days. To me, the pairing's always been Lewis has always been teaching Albon. That's to me is the unwritten sort of thing that we never sort of see, but it's there. Lewis always teaches Albon. So I reckon he's now got a protege in Formula One, and I can think of none better than Charles Leclerc, to be fair. So that's going to be very, very good. And in terms of off track, I think they'll share data. Lewis never shares data. Hates sharing data. I think he would this time because it's Ferrari. You've got to work together. It's there to win a championship. And Leclerc, I think, is going to be a teammate like Valtteri was, not in terms of that he's going to let him win, but in terms of the fact that they're going to work together to make the team better. And then he's going to have a fight with him. So it's wins all around. It's going to be great. It seems to be the exact plot of this movie that Lewis is producing with Apple, with Brad Pitt. It's strangely similar about an old guy going to a new team and then teach the young gun how it goes. It's very similar. It's just weird.
Yeah, I'm sure Ferrari hopes Hamilton and Leclerc will be able to work well together as teammates. And like you were saying, Josh, don't expect Charles Leclerc to be his wingman, as Valtteri Bottas was referred to, which, really, really irritated Bottas when that happened. But on paper, Hamilton, Leclerc, that looks really, really good. And I think it could have potential depending on how things go at Ferrari if they figure out everything in the strategy department. Produce a car that can take the fight to Red Bull or even Mercedes if they're able to get back up there. Then I think that the situation between Hamilton and Leclerc can work out over time. But while things look good on paper, it doesn't always translate to real life results. So Hamilton and Leclerc, they're gonna have to work really, really hard and dig in, and and drop their egos and truly work together as teammates if they really want this partnership to work out.
Yeah, well, I hope that, things turn out to be really well between Leclerc and Hamilton, just as Josh mentioned. I hope that everything turns out to be well and it's more of a like master teaching a protege like skills and that kind of thing. But I think that honestly it's going to be tougher in person. I think that in theory it sounds great. Great idea for both of them to be working in Ferrari together. But I think that in person there's gonna be a bit of tension or some degree of animosity maybe between them because we know that Leclerc has also had his eyes set on the championship, um, and he has been a bit frustrated the past year or 2, not being able to, do as well as he hopes to do, and then, bringing in Lewis Hamilton on top of that. So this is something that I also talked about a little bit earlier on, but I think that it could lead to a degree of tension and struggle between them. I hope that things work out. I hope that it turns out to be as good as it sounds on paper, but honestly, I feel like in real life there might be some sort of struggle between them.